1976 was a phenomenal year for popular music. That means that half a century later, there are hundreds of historically significant albums celebrating their 50th anniversaries in this year, 2026. We started this series by saying we were going to look at 30 albums from 1976 that are turning 50 this year. One album in each of these brief videos. In today's episode, however, I'm calling an audible and giving you a twofer. That's because this legendary band released not just one, but two amazing albums in 1976. And like Lay's potato chips, we can't eat just one. Hey there, Swan Shadow here. Welcome back to the nest. The Irish rockers Thin Lizzy released two albums, arguably the two best albums of their career, in 1976. In addition to their proximity in time, the two records share a rather tragic connection. Jailbreak was the first album to give Thin Lizzy a taste of success outside of the UK and their native Ireland. Elevated by the hit single The Boys Are Back in Town, which got to number 12 on the Billboard Hot 100, as well as the album's title track, Jailbreak heralded what was intended to be a landmark touring year for the band in 1976. Thin Lizzy was booked as the opening act for Rainbow's US tour. We'll talk more about those guys later in this series. But before the trip launched, Thin Lizzy's lead vocalist, bassist, and primary songwriter, Phil Lynott, was hospitalized with hepatitis. The whole tour was canceled, and the band's long-craved international momentum seemed lost. While recovering from his illness, Lynott devoted himself to writing a new album, which ultimately became Johnny the Fox. It's a solid, although somewhat quirky collection of songs. That latter quality makes sense given the circumstances under which it was put together. Its lead single, Don't Believe a Word, although a hit in the UK and Ireland, failed to gain traction in the US. Before a newly scheduled American tour could begin in November, guitarist Brian Robertson injured his hand in a bar fight. Pro tip, if you make your living using your hands, stay out of bar fights. In fact, just stay out of bar fights. Although Thin Lizzy managed to sign on for another US tour, opening for Queen the following year, this time with substitute guitarist Gary Moore on board, their window of opportunity for North American success never again opened quite as wide. Thin Lizzy's entire catalog is worthy of attention, but their two 1976 albums in particular represent, at least in my opinion, the best that the band had to offer. Phil Lynott's singing and songwriting absolutely soar on these two albums, and the band's twin guitar attack of Brian Robertson and Scott Gorham defined a style that was imitated but never exactly equaled by countless other hard rock ensembles. As I listened to these two albums, Jailbreak and Johnny the Fox, it struck me that no one is making music today that sounds anything like this. In fact, by 1976, there weren't an awful lot of bands making music that sounded like this even then, which I suppose is one of the many reasons why Thin Lizzy never quite became as huge on this side of the Atlantic as their talents deserved. Tough, bluesy, guitar-focused rock was already facing stiff competition in 1976 from genres like disco, soft rock, what would eventually become punk and new wave. The popularity of bands like Thin Lizzy had peaked earlier in the 70s, and American audiences in particular were beginning to move on. And that's a shame because these really are two excellent hard rock albums. Jailbreak, by virtue of a couple of hit tracks and the fact that it featured some iconic cover artwork, is probably better known today. But don't sleep on Johnny the Fox, which is less rough around the edges and more eclectic in style than its immediate predecessor, but is, in my opinion, the finest work in Thin Lizzy's incredible catalog. And can we talk for just a moment about Phil Lynott? There have been so many terrific singers in rock history, but no one then or now ever sounded quite like Phil. His voice had both grit and expressiveness, plus a uniquely soulful approach to phrasing a lyric that perhaps owed something to his background as a black man with working-class Irish roots. Lynott's vocals are sometimes compared to his contemporaries Van Morrison or Bruce Springsteen or even Jimi Hendrix, but to my ear, Phil Lynott as a singer could never be mistaken for anyone else. And that's not even mentioning his outstanding bass playing, or especially his fantastic songwriting. Phil Lynott was a truly special talent, and one whose work deserves mention alongside the icons of rock. Sadly, even as this year marks the 50th anniversary of Thin Lizzy's two greatest albums, it's also the 40th anniversary of the passing of Phil Lynott, who died January 4th, 1986, at the all too young age of 36. Have you heard these two brilliant albums by Thin Lizzy from 1976? If you haven't listened to Jailbreak or Johnny the Fox, you owe it to yourself to check them out. And if you have heard them, let me know in the comments what you think about this amazing music and this tragically underappreciated band. While you're at it, consider hitting that thumbs up if you've enjoyed this video. And why not subscribe to this channel so that you can continue on this journey through the incredible albums turning 50 this year. I'll see you when I see you. As always, I encourage you to be well and to do well by the people around you. And the question remains, is there gas in the car? Yes, there's gas in the car.